Before we make a start of the proceedings, it's always good to open up in prayer and invite God into our presence. So I'd like to invite a member of our logistics committee, Mrs. Daisy Williams, to lead us in prayer. May we all please stand?
Good afternoon, let us pray. We can bow our heads and close our eyes. Father God, we thank you for today. We thank you that you saw it fit to allow us to see a new day. You give us life in our bodies and strength in our limbs. I pray that you will have your way over the course of these proceedings as we debate the topics, Daddy God. I pray, Lord God, that we'll open our minds to receive whatever is debated, whatever is discussed, whatever that is shared, and open our hearts to a new perspective. Have your way. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you. So let me officially welcome you to the semi-final round of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. Good afternoon to all those present, our students from the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy, from the St. Mary's Academy, the students of the Dominica State College, Literary and Debating Society who are present, our judges, our members of the organizing committee for the debating competition, our teachers, and of course the media. Good afternoon to the listeners on DBS Radio, on DNO, Dominica News Online, on Vibian TV, and on Emma News. Good afternoon to you. I hope I'm coming through loud and clear. So this afternoon we have the very interesting task of determining who will make it to the finals of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. And of course, many of us here have gone through this multiple times before, round one, round two, but I just need to remind everybody of the rules of the debate which will be going on this afternoon. So this afternoon, we will hear from the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy, who is the proposing team, and the St. Mary's Academy, who is the opposing team. Some brief reminders of the rules. In this debate, the leader of the proposition will make her case for 10 minutes, a maximum of 10 minutes, and then the leader of the opposition will make his case for a maximum of 10 minutes. Then the second speaker of the proposition will make her case for a maximum of 7 minutes, and the second speaker of the opposition will make his case for a maximum of 7 minutes. After this time, we will take a 5-minute break in which the students will be allowed to prepare their rebuttal, and at that point, the audience should be very quiet whilst they prepare. At the end of this 5-minute period, we will begin the rebuttal round. In the rebuttal round, each speaker has 3 minutes in which to deliver his or her rebuttal. Just to remind our debaters this afternoon, the timekeeper who is seated directly in front of you will be given a warning signal 1 minute before the expiration of your allotted time for each of your presentations, both the rebuttal and your prepared presentation. Following the rebuttal, our esteemed judges will be escorted to a secure venue outside of this room, and they will deliberate, and then in quick time they will deliver to us their results and their critique of the debate. Okay, so let me just speak to you now about who the judges are for this afternoon's debate. This afternoon we have 3 judges who will be given the task of giving the results of who will make it to the finals. Mr. David Edwards is the chief judge this afternoon. Yes, Mr. Edwards is the chief judge this afternoon. He is the former principal of the St. Andrews High School, and he's a regional consultant on development projects. Mr. Edwards, good afternoon to you and welcome. Our second judge is Ms. Gail Sharpless. Gail Sharpless describes herself as a bubbly individual, and that is indeed true. She enjoys meeting new people. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in Mass Communication with a concentration in Public Relations and a Master of Education degree with a concentration in Workforce Training, Adult and Continuing Education. She's currently a lecturer at the Dominica State College and a dear colleague of mine. Welcome to Miss Gail Sharpless. And our third judge is Mrs. Elizabeth Xavier Daly. She has a Bachelor's of Education in Educational Administration from the UWI and a Master's of Science in Educational Leadership from the University of Leicester. She has had a long career as an educator, serving as a teacher, a preschool administrator, a deputy principal, and a principal at both the high school and primary school level. So good afternoon and welcome to Mrs. Elizabeth Xavier Daly. Thank you. So we have 3 judges. Thanks. Thank you. We have 3 judges who have their work cut out for them. This afternoon, the topic which will be debated is, there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in schools' dress codes. And I will repeat the moot. There should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in schools' dress codes. Let me now invite the debaters to take center stage. From the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy, the first speaker is Ms. Berger Bertrand. Please stand. And the second speaker, Ms. Shireen Carbon. Please come to the front and take your seats. So welcome to the team from the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy, Ms. Berger Bertrand and Ms. Shireen Carbon. On the opposing side from the St. Mary's Academy, the first speaker will be Mr. Ajanaya Kazimi. And the second speaker, Mr. Jahaziel John. Please come forward. Mr. John, if I mispronounce your name, tell me, you know. All right. So welcome. Welcome to the debaters who have taken their seats. So it's time to get started with the debate, which is what we are here for this afternoon. Is everybody ready? Debaters, are you ready? Yes? Okay. Judges, are you ready? Media houses, I hope you're ready, and we're on live and in living color. Members of the audience, are you ready? Oh, yes. All right. So let's get started with the debate. I invite to begin the first speaker from the proposing side, Ms. Berger Bertrand, who will have 10 minutes in which to deliver her arguments. Welcome, Ms. Bertrand.
Madam Moderator, Honorable Judges, my most worthy opponents, supporters, good afternoon. On September 7, 2022, the Antigua Observer reported, and I quote, "The Cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, having met today, all members present, 3 days following the reopening of all schools, public and private, expressed its strong condemnation of several schools, both private and public, that discriminates against Rastafarians and those students who wear their natural hair in locks. The executive said in a statement, if it becomes necessary, the Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda will be induced to change policy into law," end quote. This all happened because a 5-year-old girl was refused entry into a class because she was wearing locks. Today, my colleague and I stand here to propose to you that there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in schools' dress codes. Permit me to define the key terms. According to the Oxford Dictionary, elimination is the process of removing or getting rid of something completely. Restrictions are rules or laws that limit what you can do or what can happen. Hairstyles are defined as a style in which somebody's hair is cut or arranged, And finally, the CambridgeDictionary.org defines dress code as a set of rules about clothing and appearance in a school or place of work. As a first speaker, I will be expanding on the following points. 1. The current rules on hairstyles stifle self-expression. 2. Hairstyles do not prevent or influence learning. And 3. The Education Act does not mandate hair restrictions. My colleague will be presenting on the points restrictions on hairstyles infringe on the fundamental rights of students, and these restrictions are discriminatory. Firstly, the current restrictions on hairstyles which exist in our schools stifle the creativity and self-expression of students. From my perspective, the perspective of a high school student, adolescence is one of the most emotionally charged moments in a person's life. It is a time of great change, both physical and mental, especially mental. And the only way that many teenagers feel like they can truly express what they are feeling is through their appearance. A research paper published in Frontiers in Psychology by Weber and Freund in 2016 states, and I quote, "One important goal of education is to develop students' self-esteem, which in turn hinges on their self-concept in the academic, physical, and social domains." A sample of 2,950 students from a broad range of German secondary schools aged 10 to 19 years responded to a questionnaire assessing multiple self-concept facets. We examined which self-concept aspects predict self-esteem best and whether the pattern is across genders and achievement levels using latent regression analysis. Results show that self-concept of appearance is still by far the strongest predictor. This shows us that appearance plays an important role in the body images of teenagers, and allowing them to wear their hair as they please will give them an emotional outlet that is not only safe, but also healthy. Some schools require that all their students wear their hair in the same style or cut. This limits the ability of students to express themselves how they see fit, and it can be particularly distressing for those whose hair is a significant part of their cultural and personal identity. In preparation for this debate, my school conducted a survey across most of the Caribbean's English-speaking islands to find out the number of schools which impose restrictions on hairstyles, the students' views of these restrictions, and the impact of these restrictions on their learning. Out of the 259 respondents, 235, or 90.7%, responded that their school had restrictions on hairstyles, and the effect on self-expression was one of the most popular reasons for the need for elimination. All across the world, government policymakers, educators, stakeholders, psychologists, and most importantly, students and parents are all echoing the same thing that we are saying here today. There is a need for the elimination of the restrictions on hairstyles in schools. To be honest with you, my most worthy opponents, I find it a little hard to believe that you yourself are not disturbed by how there is little to no room for self-expression in our schools. Isn't it strange how we come in, when we get dressed in the morning, we are to turn off who we are and how we feel and conform to a set rules. Yet, when we sit in our classes, we are to switch on our individuality and give authentic responses based on how we feel. Switch on, switch off. My second point is that a student's hairstyle does not prevent him or her from learning. Madam Moderator, have you ever heard of any case in point where a student has somehow been unable to learn because of the way their hair was styled? I have searched high and low, and I've yet to find any proof that a student's hairstyle somehow results in poor academic performance. What I have found is that there's an inconsistency in school rules related to hairstyles, and what is acceptable in one school is unacceptable in another. SMA has been featured among the top performing schools in the CSEC exams. Some of the boys who sat the exam had the hairstyle referred to as fades, but they still excelled. My school does not allow fades, but for the last 2 consecutive years, males with flat haircuts topped the CSEC results on island. The Trotters and Burtons, past students of the Dominica Grammar School, who all carried their hair in locks, were top performers on island. So tell me, judges, what conclusion can be drawn from this? I can hear my opponents whisper that irrespective of hairstyle, students are very capable of learning, and not just learning, but excelling even. So I'm asking again, what exactly is the rationale for these restrictions on hairstyles if they do not actually affect students' ability to learn? And please, my opponents, do not come with the view that his hairstyles are somehow distracting, because I have taken up the task of visiting numerous preschools on island. And in preschool, which is considered the most critical stage for learning, you'll find preschoolers with short hair, long hair, twists, locks, boys with ponytails, and the list goes on and on. So if this stage is so critical to learning, and if hairstyles are somehow so distracting, why are there no restrictions on hairstyles in preschools? The same should apply to students at all levels of education. According to Guyana's Minister of Education, Honorable Manik Chand, and I quote, "Rules restricting hairstyles do not affect the curriculum in any way, but instead pose a confidence issue, a self-esteem issue. My most worthy opponents, rules restricting hairstyles do not affect the curriculum in any way. Instead, it stifles the creativity of students, their identity, and stops them from expressing themselves." In November 2020, Yale University conducted a study which proved that hairstyles can boost your confidence. This added confidence boost will allow you to feel more strongly about yourself and may even help you to face new challenges that you thought were super difficult before. Changing things up with a hairstyle is a great way to boost confidence and self-esteem, and this positively impacts your learning. This, my most worthy opponents, should be the main focus of schools, your ability to learn. My third and final deposit in this argument is probably the most important. The Ministry of Education and the Education Act has no clear guidelines for hairstyles in schools. In fact, permit me to quote directly from the Act. In Section 17, subsection D, under the heading Student Responsibility, I quote, "Every student enrolled in a public or assisted school shall observe standards approved by the Chief Education Officer or Principal, as the case may be with respect to 1. Cleanliness and tidiness of the person, 2. General deportment and attire," end quote. In Education Regulations in the 2011 amended edition, under Section 77, Mode of Dress of Students states, and I quote, "Every principal of a public or private assisted school shall consult with the Chief Education Officer in determining the uniforms to be used by students at the school and shall be settled in the school rules," end quote. Shocking, right? I know. The Education Act is a governing document for education on our island, and that document does not outline any clear guidelines relating to hairstyles. This means two things. 1, students are left to be controlled based on the stereotypes, preferences, and separate worldviews of educators and school boards. And 2, that the governing education body in our country does not see the necessity of imposing these restrictions, since it has no actual bearing on education. If you scan through the Education Act, you will find clear guidelines for almost every other topic, but the guidelines which we are debating here today are not clear. In fact, honorable judges, an official from the Ministry of Education shared that principals were recently reminded to be careful in their impositions of hairstyle restrictions on students, since it is not backed up by any actual policy. If the Act does not outline it, then it should not be enforced. Let me remind you, restrictions on hairstyles in our schools should be removed because they limit self-expression, do not prevent learning, and are not supported by the governing bodies of education on island or the Education Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bertrand. And for the judges, her time was 10 minutes and 2 seconds. We now move to the first speaker of the St. Mary's Academy to oppose the topic. And the first speaker is Mr. Ajanaya Kazimi. He will have 10 minutes in which to deliver his arguments. Mr. Kazimi.
Good afternoon to all honorable judges, Madam Moderator, my valuable colleague, and my worthy opponents, and you, the audience. Pleasant good afternoon. I stand before you today to debate the topic that there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in school dress codes. In solidarity with my colleague and using solid evidence, I promise to convince you that there should be an elimination of that there should not be an elimination of restrictions which exist in school dress codes. According to the Oxford Dictionary, elimination can be defined as the complete removal or destruction of something. According to the Collins Dictionary, a restriction is an official rule that limits what you can do. Hairstyle, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is defined as a particular way in which one hair is styled or cut. A school, according to that same source, is an institution for educating pupils, while a dress code is a set of rules specifying the required manner of dress. Therefore, the topic at hand can be perceived to mean that there should be a removal of rules which limits the way a pupil can style his or her hair in a learning institution. My colleague and I are in strong disagreement to this topic and shall prove to you why there should not and should never be an elimination of restrictions which exist in the school's dress codes. I shall expound on the fact that hairstyle keeps a uniformed setting and the fact that these hairstyles prepare students for the professional world, while my partner shall discuss how these hairstyles can cause distractions and may lead to unhealthy competition and even bullying. Ladies and gentlemen, we ought to keep into consideration that an institution is formed because a goal needs to be reached. No matter the type of institution, clear expectations and standards needs to be established for the whole community to help the community reach its common goals. In order for this to occur, there must be a set of rules and regulations to be followed. In schools, one such rule deals with the dress codes on students' hairstyles. Madam Moderator, according to Professor Mohammed Harvey in an article entitled A Survey of the Effective Factors in Students' Adherence to University Dress Code Policy, states, open quote, one of the social functions of dressing is its identification capacity, because type of dressing represents a society's traditions, values, and beliefs. Close quote. This means, therefore, that viewpoints, norms, and values are the particular dimensions of culture which are reflected in one's appearance. In an attempt to achieve a uniform school with strong cultural values and norms and to help in the creation of the identity of the school community, management specifies rules and regulations, including restrictions on hairstyles. For example, the St. Mary's Academy Code of Conduct states that dress code serves as a reminder that we represent the St. Mary's Academy. It goes on to say that hair must be well groomed, well combed, no plaits, no rough tops, curls, or designs are allowed. And it should not be more than half an inch in height and should not touch the collar of the shirt. These regulations guide its members and bring all students to a level ground. In the absence of restrictions on hairstyles, students will be free to wear whatever hairstyle they please without the consideration of the values of the school and the identity in which it would like to portray. My worthy opponents, we both attend church schools, so are you insinuating that schools like ours, which value modesty, self-respect, and dignity, should remove restrictions on hairstyles? We all know the popular saying, give a person a foot and they will take a mile. If students are allowed to come to school with whatever hairstyle they want, whether it may be mohawks, long hair, dyed hair, colorful waves, derogatory symbols in their hairstyles, would that be in keeping with the values of our schools? To develop a person holistically? Would we truly be identified as men of St. Mary, or in your case, girls of Orford Wadrant Seventh-day Adventist School? These hair restrictions are only meant to set clear expectations and standards as to what is acceptable in the school setting and to create identity, and rightly doing so. Furthermore, my most worthy opponents, the hair code helps prepare students for the professional world. Madam Moderator, my opponents may want you to believe that people become employed merely because of their abilities, skills, and experience, and not because of their hairstyle. But, like it or not, this is far from the truth. In the world of work, appearance is important, and your hairstyle forms part of your appearance. Most jobs require individuals to be well groomed, but personal grooming cannot be limited to what you wear, as neglecting personal hygiene and hairstyles can ruin the image in which one wishes to present. The expression, first impressions are lasting impressions, cannot be more evident when an individual presents himself for an interview. Most employers form a first impression of the candidate during the first few seconds of a meeting. According to Kenneth Bird, co-founder of Curl-Centric, in an article entitled, "Does Hairstyle Matter in an Interview?" says, "The truth is that your hairstyle does matter in an interview. Others' perception of you is not only shaped by your past accomplishments and answers to interview questions, but it's also shaped by how you look, whether you're wearing formal clothes, and how your hair is styled. If your interviewer perceives your hairstyle to be rebellious or unprofessional, it could be held against you." Close quote. Ladies and gentlemen, when the schools implement restrictions on hairstyles, essentially that's just one of the ways of preparing them for their professional life and that successful job interview. Furthermore, by schools implementing these restrictions on hairstyles, they give students their first taste of working in a professional environment and presentable in the workplace. After all, one's appearance is a testament of his or her personality and the organization's professional picture. Madam Moderator, colorful hairstyles or other potentially distracting hairstyles are not it in the workplace, unless, of course, you are in a wash your fruit and come job. There are many jobs, including those in food services, hospitality, education, and corporate jobs in law firms, which include strict hair restrictions on dress codes. For some jobs, hairstyle may be restricted because they are not professional or they may be a health and safety hazard, while others do not portray respectability. We must admit, though, that many companies have relaxed their internal dress code and offer minimal grooming standards to move with the times. Some stipulate that the hair can be long, but it must be slicked back in one or cornrowed or even covered. Whatever the stipulation may be, whether it may be minimal or not, there still exists some sort of restriction in the professional world. So, Madam Moderator, why do we want to remove these restrictions in our schools when our schools is geared towards the holistic formation of our students? My most worthy opponents, it is important to dress in line with the trend that your industry follows, but many of the industries require employees to be well-groomed, and that definitely takes into consideration that their hair must be well-groomed, and these are restrictions. Therefore, school is only preparing students for the professional world by having these restrictions. By removing restrictions on hairstyles in the name of freedom, we are only exposing ourselves to the elimination of other restrictions. First, we start with hair, then we move to uniforms, and then what will be next? Strict hair codes allow schools to create standards and help students to develop professionalism early on in life. This prepares them for greater roles in the future. We cannot afford to eliminate restrictions on hairstyles in our dress codes. This is dangerous. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kazimi. For the judges, his time was 9 minutes and 24 seconds. We now move to the second speaker from the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy. She will have 7 minutes in which to present her arguments, and she is Ms. Shireen Carbon. I welcome her to the podium.
Madam Moderator, judges, my most worthy opponents, good afternoon. Like my colleague, I'm here in support of the moot that there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in school dress codes.
I further support this move because, number one, restrictions on hairstyles infringe on the fundamental rights of students, and number two, restrictions on hairstyles are discriminatory. Firstly, we'll examine how restrictions on hairstyles infringe on the fundamental rights of students. Rights are inherent to all human beings, regardless of age, gender, nationality, ethnicity, religion, etc. Therefore, restrictions on hairstyles which infringe on students' religious rights, cultural expression, freedom of expressions must, and I repeat, must be eliminated from school dress codes. In the school dress codes, emphasis should be placed on the neatness and cleanliness of the hair and not on the hairstyle. Judges, please remind my opponents that rights and freedoms are crafted in such a way that one individual rights are not infringed upon, and nor do they infringe upon the rights of others. However, one may ask, how does restrictions on hairstyles infringe on the students' rights? The answer is simple. By restricting hairstyles in school dress codes, they show lack of understanding and respect for one's cultural expressions, freedom of expressions, and religious rights. Madam Moderator, let me reiterate, hairstyles are part of one's race, one's culture, and one's religion. And by ordering students to wear their hair otherwise is fostering an environment of exclusivism instead of an inclusive one. To make matters worse, students are being denied their right of an education because of their hairstyle. My most worthy opponents, in this day and age, do you really think that students should be denied an education because of the hairstyle they wear? However, in August 2020, the Supreme Court ruling banned a girl with locks from entering a Kingston primary school in Jamaica. And in September 2022, a student with locks was prevented from entering her class in Antigua on her very first day. The fact that students cannot gain entry into an educational institution because of a particular hairstyle means that they are being denied their right to an education. A right held up in the Constitution but denied at schools. And to add insult to injury, there is no uniformity in these dress codes in schools in Dominica, in the Caribbean, and even further afield. And like my colleague said, these restrictions are not even supported by the Education Act. That's why on June 14, 2021, the Jamaica Gleaner published an article captioned, and I quote, "MOE warns against the barring of students over hairstyles." On March 13, 2022, the Guyana Chronicle issued a story moving forward with the changing of schools' hair rules. And on April 22, 2022, Barbados Today reported, I quote, "Education Ministry to review schools' hairstyle policies," end of quote. That's because schools are left to impose their restrictions based on their whims and fancies, which they think are necessary. So my brother is denied an education at SMA, your school, because he has locks, but is accepted with his fade. He's accepted at grammar school with both his locks or his fade, but is denied access at my school with either. Even at the Wesley High School, if a girl with blonde hair dyes it black, nothing will be done. But if a girl with black hair decides to dye it blonde, she'll be sent home immediately to dye it back to its original color. Teachers now have an extra burden being placed on them to examine even down to hair color. But what is the rationale for these restrictions if one school has it and the other doesn't? This brings me to my second point. Restrictions on hairstyles are discriminatory. Many of the restrictions pertaining to hairstyles in school dress codes affect specific students, especially black students, because of the way they are designed. This often results in unlawful, indirect discrimination. Indirect discrimination happens when a school applies a policy which puts students having a protected characteristic, like example, race or religion, at a disadvantage compared to students who don't share that characteristic. And that's according to the United Kingdom Equality and Human Rights Commission. My dear friends, do we want to wait for what's happened in the United Kingdom and the US to happen to us here in Dominica, where students like Jet Hawkins took their school to court because they were banned from wearing hairstyles like cornrows for boys, having locks, and being prevented from wearing cultural headwear on the school's premises. Madam Moderator, these cases were won by the students on the basis of race, religion, and even disability. The court ruled that the students were being indirectly discriminated against and that the school should amend their policies. Now, I know that my opponents may just argue that exceptions can be made. For example, those students who undergo cancer treatment be allowed to wear wigs, scarves, or head wraps. Muslims be allowed to wear their hijabs. Black students be allowed to wear the African heritage head wraps. But how does one determine where and when these restrictions, these exceptions should start or end? Who really is the authority on this? What bases are going to be used to determine what are acceptable exceptions and what are not? Madam Moderator, in an effort not to discriminate, there is always going to be exceptions. Exceptions will become the norm. My most worthy opponents, for almost all the hairstyles students wear, exceptions have to be made. If not for religion, for race. If not for culture, for sickness. Therefore, in an effort to say that none, not some, but that all of our students are being treated equally and are not discriminated against, and that two, in an effort to say that no rights of our students are infringed upon, you must agree that restrictions on hairstyles in the school rules must be eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caban. For the judges, her time was 6 minutes and 43 seconds. We now move to the second speaker on the opposing team from the St. Mary's Academy, Mr. Jahaziel John. To deliver his arguments, he will have 7 minutes in which to do so. Mr. John?
Good afternoon to all. I rise today to support my colleague and to further prove to you that there should not be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in schools. My colleague has already proven to you that how hairstyles provide a uniform and cultured setting and the fact that having hairstyle restrictions imposed on students prepare them for the professional world. I will now demonstrate how various hairstyles will hinder the learning process and may even lead to bullying. Madam Moderator, my esteemed judges, an elimination of restrictions on something which seems as simple as a hairstyle may be in fact a major cause for distraction. The removal of restrictions could mean that students could come to school however they please, with long hair, short hair, colored hair, a mohawk, maybe even weaves, locks, or wigs, and any other extravagant or bold thing that they so desire. Let's be honest. What would we expect to happen in a setting like that, when all of these things become permissible? Allowing students to be unrestrained in their hairstyles will undeniably lead to students who will be so preoccupied with their classmates' hairstyles that they will no longer focus on their own schoolwork. Instead, they will focus more on the hairstyles of others, or perhaps even their own. They may lose focus on their work, forget to study in preparation for the hairstyles of tomorrow, and may spend time affixing the hair. Think of it, my dear opponents. You're sitting in a class, and your classmate comes to school in a 22-inch human Brazilian wig, and it's impeccably looking. You simply just would not want to take your eyes off of her, and you would want to know where you could get such a look just for yourself. And you may even forget you're in a classroom. Or let's say one of your classmates comes to school in a flaming burnt orange hair, and another one with a half of his head shaved off. What would your first reaction be? Of course you would burst into laughter. And your teacher would be unable to control the staring, the laughing, and the jeering that would certainly ensue. What if a student decides to come to school with his hair straight up to the sky, like Bart Simpson, and he sits in front of you, and you cannot see the teacher or even the blackboard? Isn't this a hindrance to your academic progress? The main reason why you are at school? Ladies and gentlemen, I could present countless variations of hairstyles which have the possibility of surfacing in our schools. Because if we remove restrictions, these are not far-fetched at all. Because when we remove restrictions, the possibilities are endless. And let us be reminded, we are not dealing with adults who have gained or who have already gained a certain level of maturity and restraint. We are dealing with children, and we all know that children are very easily distracted. Judges, the opponents may try to convince you that we are not our hair, and that students' hairstyles do not affect their learning. But this ideology in itself is immensely misleading. If pupils are distracted by their hairstyles, how can they learn? How can they focus? We students already have sufficient distractions that hinder our academic progress, and we simply cannot afford to add any more distractions to our students. Lastly, an elimination of restrictions may lead to unhealthy competition and may even lead to bullying. In a school where children are already bullied for what they eat, what they wear, how they wear what they wear, who they associate with, and where they live, should we really add another level of social judgment to these poor children? While others may think that something that people won't care about are something as small as hairstyles, I can assure you that when we allow students to self-express, that this may certainly occur. That we, when allowing the removal of restrictions, are opening a very dangerous can of worms. We do not even have to do any extensive research to know that when people are bullied, it's simply because they're different. There are countless examples of students who've been bullied because they certainly dislike what others are wearing, they may have a health condition, or they simply like something better or different. Many schools in the US, for example, have had to amend their code of conduct to prevent bullying. According to the WNC news article entitled "Bullying Rules Now Apply to Students' Hairstyles at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools," in 2021, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools in North Carolina have updated its students' code of conduct to prevent bullying and discrimination on the basis of appearance. Is this really what we want to achieve? Allowing students to get creative will result in a massive rise in bullying, causing plain mean comments and nicknames, which will consequently lead to serious problems. The book entitled "Bullying in School," written by Al Ali, states that bullying in school not only affects students' physical, emotional, and psychosocial lives, but it also affects their learning and academic achievements. Theoretical and empirical literature has also supported the direct association between bullying in students' academic achievements and learning. All in all, the restrictions of hairstyles are a cornerstone in the maintenance of order and discipline in our schools. Removal of these restrictions may have disastrous consequences which are not needed in the slightest. My most worthy opponents, you are trying to convince us that students should be free to express themselves. But at what cost? Is it at the cost of students trying to learn and being bullied for what they like? Or is it at the cost of their academic success, which parents are making countless sacrifices for? Or do we want to run the risk of creating students who are unfit for the professional world? By removing restrictions in the schools' dress codes, we will be adding one more nail to the coffin of our educational system. And we simply cannot allow this to happen. We rest our case.
Thank you, Mr. John. For the judges, his time was 6 minutes and 19 seconds. So this concludes the prepared presentations aspect of the debate. And now we give the debaters 5 minutes in which to prepare their rebuttal. I just want to, so timekeeper, your time in. I just want to take this opportunity briefly to thank the sponsors of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. Of course, this competition has cost quite a bit of money and quite a bit of
debating this afternoon. The Arthur Waldron SDA Academy proposing the topic, and the SMA St. Mary's Academy opposing the topic which is there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in schools' dress codes. We have heard a number of very salient points. We had the proposing team giving the point that hair doesn't prevent learning, and it also stops self-identity. and they have also said that it infringes on the rights of students and it is a discriminatory action. We heard the SMA opposing with the hairstyles help with uniformity. Hairstyles are a distraction and can lead to bullying. And they also said that these guides, which exist for hairstyles in school dress codes, are leveling grounds and prepare you for professional life. Very important points made by the 4 students at the podium. We are currently at a 5-minute break waiting for the rebuttal. These students each, as a team, had 17 minutes to present, the first speaker for 10 and the second speaker for 7 minutes. The rebuttal will be given after this 5-minute break, where they will have 3 minutes. The first speaker of each team will be given 3 minutes to refute the moot of or the points from their opponents. The judges here today they have a hard task. They are Mr. Edwards, past principal of the St. Andrew's School, Gail Sharpless, current mass communications teacher at the Dominica State College, and Elizabeth Daly, long-standing educator in Dominica. So we are currently waiting for the students to prepare the rebuttal. And once again, this is DBS Radio, and you are tuned in to the semi-finals of the Inter-Secondary Schools Debating Competition. And currently, the schools SMA, St. Mary's Academy, and Arthur Waldron, SDA Academy, are the ones debating. At 3 o'clock, another debate will take place, and the 2 winners, or the winners from these 2 rounds, will be in the finals as who will be the champion for the Inter-Secondary Schools Debate Competition. So we're currently here waiting for a 5-minute break, for the 5-minute break to end, and then the first speakers of each school will return to the podium to present their rebuttal. We must once again remind you of the students who have taken the step. The students who have taken the step forward and have been brave enough to participate in this debate and to represent their schools. For the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy, there's Berger Bertrand and Shireen Carbon. And for the St. Mary's Academy, Ajanaya Kasimi and Jahaziel John. So a team of 2 girls and a team of 2 boys debating the topic, there should be an elimination of hairstyles, of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in the school's dress code. Once again, thank you for tuning in to DBS Radio, whether it's via radio, whether it's via Facebook Live, or via YouTube. Thank you for tuning in to the semi-finals of the Inter-Secondary Schools Debating Competition.
So the 5 minute break is up. And I did give an extra minute since I called the sponsor's name, so I gave you that extra time. So debaters, it is time for the rebuttal segment of this debate, the last segment. So, just a reminder to the audience, the debaters have 3 minutes. The leader of each team has 3 minutes in which to refute their opponent's points and or summarize their arguments. Okay, so I call on the leader of the proposing team from the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy, Ms. Bertrand, to deliver her rebuttal. I welcome her to the podium. Ms. Bertrand.
Judges, Madam Moderator, judges, my most worthy opponents, I stand here again to remind you of our position in this debate. My colleague and I have fully supported the moot that there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles in schools because it restricts the self-expression and creativity of students. It does not affect their learning ability. The Education Act does not mandate hair restrictions. They infringe on the fundamental rights of students, and these restrictions are discriminatory. Today, my opponents presented the following points: that, these restrictions on hairstyles prepare students for the professional world, it helps with uniformity, prevents bullying, and, some hairstyles cause distractions, and it's a waste of time. They mentioned that it will improve uniformity, or it helps with uniformity. But there's already no uniformity in hairstyles. If you look in the crowd, you will see students with all different kinds of hairstyles. And we think that this doesn't make any sense. There's already no uniformity, and as we mentioned, these rules always vary from school to school. They also mentioned that, these restrictions help with professionalism, and that is, and we acknowledge that they may be right about that. But they mentioned that if it helps with professionalism, why are there no hairstyle restrictions for university or preschools or even the American schools that they mentioned? They said when they mentioned the thing about professional, we remembered braids and wigs are professional, yet they are not allowed in some of our schools. Students only go to the extremes because they are restricted. One of the parents we interviewed in the US told us that her daughter attends one of the top middle schools in Brooklyn, Mark Twain School for the Gifted and Talented. This school has no restrictions on hairstyles or dress, but because of their exceptional performance in academics and arts, top high schools flock there yearly to recruit students. Madam Moderator, since any hairstyle is a norm at these schools, students are not distracted by them. So instead of having teachers policing students for their hairstyle, this time should be spent on more important matters that actually affect and influence students' learning. They mentioned about bullying. We do not believe that bullying victims should be punished and restricted from wearing their hairstyles that they like because the bully does not like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bertrand. For the judges, her time was 2 minutes and 29 seconds. I now call on the leader of the opposing team from the St. Mary's Academy, Mr. Ajanaya Kazimi, to deliver the rebuttal for his team. Mr. Kazimi.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Moderator and judges. We talked about how having restrictions on hairstyles can help in the professional world and how it creates a uniform school, while my partner spoke about how it prevents distractions and prevents bullying also. Now, my opponent spoke about it stifles creativity, but we are by no means saying that children's creativity should be stifled. However, creativity should not come in the way of a child's education process. Parents work hard day and night for children to gain an education, and hairstyles distractions come in distracting students. So my worthy opponents, creativity should not come in the way of students' academic process, in the students' academic learning. Giving children the avenue to come to school, a formal institution for educating pupils with whatever hairstyle they want, gives them an avenue to come to school with hairstyles that are not fitted for the school and work environment, therefore causing them to be distracted, which impedes the learning process. Do not get us wrong, and as a principal, there is nothing more satisfying and fulfilling for children to be able to express themselves openly. And yes, we totally understand that, and there are better ways to erect a child's creativity. There are smarter ways, there are more constructive ways, and there are more worthwhile ways, such as culture and sports. These hairstyles should not come, as I said again, at the expense of a child's learning. And they spoke about discrimination. We all expected it. However, listen to this. Uniformity and standardization prevents discrimination. If students are on the same level with relatively the same hairstyle, how can one discriminate against another? How can one bully another? How can one make fun of another? How? It prevents children from looking down from one another because of their hairstyle, because all of the children are on the same level. A similar hairstyle code allows students to build a sense of belonging in the school community. It's a symbol where students can feel comfortable and united in purpose. Students interact better with each other knowing that they are equal. This forms one community bond and reduces the prospects of bullying and discrimination, as we said. So my judges and my moderator, we are in full support that there should not be an elimination of restrictions which exist on schools' dress codes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kazimi. For the judges, his time was 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, students, listeners on all the media platforms that we have present, this concludes the first semi-final debate between the Afro Waldron SDA Academy and the St. Mary's Academy. Let's give all the students a big round of applause for their effort this afternoon in seeking a spot for their school in the finals of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. Judges, now the work is yours. I'd like to ask the judges coordinator, the judges assistant, to please escort the judges to their area for deliberation. And students, at this time, you can join your colleagues. The pressure is over for you, and we just await the judges' decision. So judges, take your leave. And I know my judge's assistant, Miss Janice Corbett of the DSC Literary and Debating Society, will keep a tight rein on you and the time that you take to deliver those results. So we'll see you shortly. Students, rejoin your colleagues. Thank you. Okay, so we had quite a spirited debate between the two schools, and in the time that we have to wait for the judges to deliberate, we typically engage the audience in a discussion on the moot. So not a discussion on the debaters and their performance, but a discussion on the topic at hand. So I'd like to ask one of the students of the DSC Literary and Debating Society, Megan, you can fulfill that role, to take the mic that we have, and we will go through the audience to get comments on the moot. Thank you, Megan. All right, so, yes, so the moot, there should be an elimination of restrictions on hairstyles which exist in schools' dress codes. We have quite a number of students present, both from the Afro Waldron SDA Academy and from the St. Mary's Academy. I want to know your true thoughts and feelings on restrictions that exist on hairstyles at your schools and whether you believe that they should be eased up or eliminated. So who is batting first in this discussion? Who is batting first? Who would like to comment on the hairstyle restrictions that exist at your school or at schools and whether or not you believe they should be eliminated? Should I do my normal teacher mode and just call somebody? That's what I like to do, put students on the spot. But do I have a volunteer? Who wants to speak? I see a young man in red who I feel like I want to give his opinion. Megan, this gentleman in red, he looks like he wants to say something. Tell me what you think about the hairstyle restrictions. Talk to me. Talk to us.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Zamik Smith. My thoughts on the restrictions is, I mean, it's true. I used to go to SMA. My certain haircuts would be fades. It has to be low. When I was in first form, like 1 inch low. I couldn't put like afros and them things like that. And I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to put like a little nice curl in my hair, make it look nice, express myself. But then they was like, no, you can't do that. It has to be low. But now, if they bring that in, I mean, it could help some of them students like express themselves and things like that, because like, let's say, oh, what can I say it again?
Helps with expression.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got spun.
Go ahead. Happens.
Let me see. All right, let me see. Okay, good. For like, let's say for the bullying, some of the bullies, they will bully people like on their hair, the way they dress, and things like that. But like, the bullies, do they have good hairstyle? They compliment them on how their hair looking, oh, your hair too high, or your hair looking dirty and things like that, or it long and thing. But can their hair grow too? That's the question too. Can their hair grow? Do they take care of their hair too? So like, if a student like grow their hair and like express themselves, show that how it should be helped. That, I mean, that could help the student too and the bully, and show them that, wow, okay, I was wrong about that person. I should have listened to them and not bully them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I see Miss Carbon wants to speak. I'm going to pick on the educators in the room in a while, so be ready. Yes, Miss Carbon.
So, with the restrictions on hairstyles, a lot of, like, in our schools, it used to have certain rules, like a child hair not supposed to be too small, like single plaits that small, so you cannot wear. But in our school, what I really do not understand is why boys cannot wear fades. It cannot wear fades. It doesn't really make sense to me. Or like how girls cannot wear braids or wigs to school. I mean, like, if you go and put a braid and then you can for like 3-4 weeks with that on your head, and you can have more time on the weekends to study. So I don't see the sense on having to sit down there every week, having to be combing your hair just for it to get washy like in a couple of days, and then come it over again where you can have a protective hairstyle that can last longer. And also, like, it also has certain rules that affects, like let's say a black boy in our school has a certain hairstyle, or like his hair gets a little bit too high, they'll tell him to cut it off. But let's say it have an Indian or Carib person going to our school, they don't care. Like, I see their hair growing out longer than the boys, and they don't say anything. weeks pass, I waiting. I not seeing nothing happening. And with the black boys, by the time they see you with just like an inch on your hair, they saying go to cut it, or else by whatever day you will not be allowed to enter the school. So I really don't think that is necessary. And also with children, girls that have shorter hair are allowed to wear puffs, as if long hair not allowed to wear puffs. I don't really think that fair because I like my puff. When I don't want to be sitting down there combing my hair for all that hours. I just want to put my hair in a puff and go to school. So why do they get the right to go and do it and I don't? Just because my hair longer, so what do you want me to do? Cut it? I want my hair. So I feel like it have a lot of exceptions and things like that in the restrictions. So I don't really think that like just because your hair is shorter than mine or just because you're that race, you can do it, but I cannot.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And so she brought up this aspect of the racial divide, you know, different people from different ethnic backgrounds being allowed to do different things in terms of their hair. Now, I said I have a few educators, former principals of secondary schools in the room. I have quite a few, and I want to hear the voice of an educator in terms of this hairstyle rule and the concept of it creating distractions, the extreme hairstyles. So from an administrative perspective, you know, what is your view on the hairstyle restrictions and whether or not they can be eliminated? As I said, I don't want to be the teacher, Miss Christian, and call on somebody. So I want an educator to volunteer to give me their opinion on this hairstyle elimination topic. Oh, okay, so I'm going to do the Miss Christian. I'm going to, I see no hands. Okay, Mrs. Williams wants to comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to give two perspectives, one from a student of long ago and one from working in an educational institution. So when I was a student years ago at grammar school, the measures back then were not as stringent as it was now. I could go to school with my hair in plaits, I've done that already, because my hair was natural and very, very, very thick, and not all the time I could comb it. My mom used to help me comb it. I could go to school with plaits or with one or with different things, so it was not as stringent as it was now. And it didn't really affect those of us at the time, because the bulk of us at the time in fifth form got scholarships, etc. We did very, very well at CXC, so for us it wasn't really affecting. So I do understand that perspective. However, I also get why it can be, I don't want to say quote unquote distraction, but it can cause an issue. So for me, I would agree to not totally eliminating, but adjusting and updating those measures to some extent. So I know some girls who have issues with hair loss and hairline issues, so some of the hairstyles can be protective of that. So always having the hair in one actually can be more detrimental to a student when they have to constantly be brushing all the time. For a female student, that's not a good thing. It causes hair damage and etc. So for me, I would update and edit those measures. I would not allow a student to wear braids all the way to their ankles. That's a little extreme. However, I do believe that some measures need to be updated. Some need to be removed, because if some schools allowing boys to have fades and some are not, then across the board it needs to be changed that way as well. But that's just me.
Thank you. Thank you. At the Dominica State College, we notice that when the students come to the college, they come from the high school environment, one of the first things they do is change their hairstyle. So often, because we don't have those restrictions on hairstyles, once they get to the state college, they have a drastic change. Especially the boys, they start growing their hair, they start wearing something different. The girls start wearing the braids and the weaves. So we see quite a difference just over the summer between a fifth former, summertime, and starting at the state college in September, we see the change in the hairstyle. So what does that mean for the students? What does that mean? Were they being repressed at the high school with the hairstyle rules? So I want to hear a comment on that. Why the drastic change as soon as you enter the tertiary level institution? Any student wants to comment? I see Miss Bertrand's hand is up. I see a young man at the back. Okay, Megan. Megan, the young man wants to speak. No, go to him because he hasn't gotten a chance.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I attend the St. Mary's Academy, and I personally think that it is outrageous because your hair is your beauty. But at the same time, I think that people with like dreads and thing, I want to put it personally. I look nice in dreads, I think. But it's like people. When I go into attend the Dominica State College, I will put it because I know they don't really take actions to that. But I can see that it would become a distraction to me because I know my friends would probably like say they want to touch it or they want to see it or they want to take pictures or something like that. So I know it would be a distraction to us. So that's, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody else? Who else? Megan? Mr. Gregoire? Okay. Go ahead.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
I was at school many moons ago. So I just wanted to make a few broad comments about restrictions generally. At school, any opportunity we got to rebel, we did that. Not only here, but anything. There are a lot of rules. Any chance you get to break the rule, you break the rule. Of course, you get punished. And in most cases, whatever rule, there are pros and there are cons. Yes, pros and cons. But later on in life, when you start to go out and into the workplace, you realize that the restrictions were good. And that's what made your character. That's what made you who you are because of the way you, I don't want to say discipline, but the way you constructed. So you become a mature person and you realize that those restrictions were good at the time. But at school, we really try to break every rule we can whenever we get the chance. But we got punished for that, and severely as well. Not like now there are debates on punishment. In those days, you break the rule, you get a black book, you get a detention, you get caned. There was no negotiation. That's it. And we took out our punishment like men. Yeah, we didn't cry. We took like men, and some of us, you can see us now struggling until, because we can take it. That's the general comment I'd like to make, moderator.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember Miss Bertrand, your hand was up. You still want to go? Okay. Come to the front, Megan. No? Yes? Okay. Go ahead.
I think that the reason that a lot of students, as soon as they leave high school, they go crazy with their hair is because when you like oppress or restrict somebody for a while, the moment they get like a little bit of freedom, they're going to go crazy. That's why, like, when parents, like, you see children with like ultra strict parents that don't allow them to do anything, as soon as they leave the house, they like turn into these like wild, crazy children. Like, you're like, you sure that is the same person I knew from high school? It's because they don't have any freedom to do anything. So I don't think that all restrictions should be lifted, but I do feel like a lot of the restrictions don't make sense. And like I mentioned in my rebuttal, like the only stages of education where there are really any restrictions, primary and high school, and then you can just go crazy. I just don't understand why.
Thank you. I can attest to that fact myself. Not for hairstyles. For me, it was the piercings. So, yes, the restrictions that existed in school, you know, once I didn't have them anymore, the ears had to start to to be pierced. I see we have a young man who wants to speak from the SMA. Whose hand was up? Yes, go ahead.
Um, I
Mr.
think
John. Mhm.
I think I know why it is that when we go to college, most people just go crazy with it. I think it's because that when you go to college, you feel like you're an adult now and you can do whatever you want. So me personally, when I become an adult or get old enough to call myself an adult, I want to do whatever I feel like is good for me and do whatever I feel like is fun. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wants to comment? Mr. Kazimi?
I'm in actually half and half with this topic because I totally disagree of my actual topic. I disagree with it.
So you agreed with the proposing
yes,
side?
Yes, but half and half. I understand that. Firstly, I totally I do not like that there are a lot of biases and discrimination against people with locks or people with long hair. And as she said, white people sometimes with their straight hair, they have minimum restrictions on them. So I don't like that. And I don't like the fact that when people see somebody with that certain type of hairstyle, they immediately picture them as that type of person or that type of person, or, you know, I don't really agree with that. And yeah, stereotypes. And but on the other hand, I do agree that certain hairstyles can be a health and safety hazard, because sometimes if you're in a workplace and you have a long hair, it can come in front of you, it can be a distraction to you. It really can be a distraction. So in all, I do not like the discrimination, but on the other hand, I understand why there should be some restrictions of hairstyles. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kazimi. So you oppose the topic, but you're saying you actually agreed with the proposition. Okay. Anybody else wants to comment? Yes.
Sorry? Well, with the restrictions on hairstyles, as you can see, in all of the religious schools, there's restrictions on hairstyles, especially with the boys, because of what St. Peter said, that the boys should not have long hair. But anyways, I really don't feel like if the religion wants to be respected themselves, why do we disrespect other religions? Like Rastafarian, why do we disrespect them, but we want them to respect us and send their children to our school? There are Rastafarians who are smart. There are Rastafarians who are kind, respectful. They are known to be peaceful people. So why should we deny them an education at our institution because we feel like boys should not have long hair? You can't come to my school.
So the religious discrimination aspect. Okay, I see Megan. Well, Megan, take the mic and make your point.
Hi guys. I'm Megan. Hi. As you can see, I love my hair a lot. And I went to the convent high school, and convent does have restriction on hairstyles. But if you ask me, there wasn't any, because I used to go to school with my hair any which way. And I'm not sure if it was just a me thing, because I've heard other students in my grade complain about how they were told that they couldn't wear certain hairstyles. So maybe it was just they wasn't looking at me, or I don't know. But in terms to what you said, I feel like if you have a school that's already been established, they've had their backgrounds, they have their rules, they have what they're built on, me as my school, should not adjust myself for you. Personally, if I was a school, I would not change my morals or what I believe in or what I think my restrictions are because the times are changing or because I want to be more modern or something like that. So if I, as a Catholic school, believe that I don't want Rastafarians in my school, then that's me. But it's really not fair of you to come to my school and say I should change my rules. Does that make sense, right? Like, don't come here and tell me you should accept me in your school and you should change your rules because this and that. Don't come to my school. It's that simple.
Okay.
There are other schools on the island I'm pretty sure SMA isn't the only school with a good education. If they don't want you to wear your hair like that, you knew the rules before you came to the school, then follow the rules or leave the school.
Thank you. So I think now bringing up the concept of choice of the educational institution that you attend and just sucking it up and going with the rules, that might open a whole other can of worms. But the judges are back. So therefore, the discussion aspect of this these proceedings have to come to an end. And for the people who are already here for the second debate, I see we already have our judges for the second debate coming in. We started a bit late for the first debate, so we apologize, but we are wrapping up this first debate. Now, initially, the idea was to have the results at the end of both debates, but I'm going to change that idea because the room is crowded and we need to make way for the second debate. So there's no room to withhold results till the end. So we're going to ask for the chief judge to deliver his critique of this debate between the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy and the St. Mary's Academy. I'm missing one judge. Is she?
Yeah,
Okay, but you ready to?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. David Edwards, the chief judge, will now deliver the critique.
Yeah, she just has to sign. But she, yeah, she's just signed. Yeah. Okay, I'll be very short. You did an excellent job, and I think you deserve. Yeah. We were quite impressed with the level of research that you did. We observed that both teams did an impressive level of research. It was also very impressive that you actually cited authority, which is a very important thing. You actually reminded all the listeners that it's useful to use authorities to make decisions. You also reminded the listeners that it's very useful, very important to draw on case studies. We noted that you referenced case studies that were very culturally appropriate, meaning that you were dealing with the situation of hairstyles in the Caribbean and the people who were largely of African descent, and you actually referenced Caribbean case studies. So that was very, very appropriate and very, very impressive. It was also noted that one of the teams took the steps to collect primary data. So not only did you rely on secondary data and unpublished material, the gray material, but you actually went out and did some survey yourself, collecting primary data. And again, that reminds the listeners that when you're seeking to make decisions, that is important. So it's very, very impressive that even as secondary students, you valued the use of not only secondary data, but primary data and case studies. We noted that there was a bit of departure by one team from the essence of the subject, of the issue, in the sense that too often that team's arguments were skewed towards the dress code as opposed to the hairstyle. So that was a bit of a negative. In terms of the use of rebuttal time, we, the judges, concluded that that was not well optimized, and both teams are guilty of that. You could have made much better use of the rebuttal time. But all in all, you did very well. You certainly have a lot to offer. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edwards, and thank you to the judges. Thank you to the judges for their work. So the time is here to announce the results, or to get to the results of this first semi-final debate. And of course, I have the great privilege of doing so. Now, the team who wins this afternoon will be moving to the finals, which will be on April 5th. And we expect to have a very competitive debate on that day, as the semi-final has proven to be very competitive. So we have different prizes this afternoon. We will have a winner. We also have the prize for the best speaker for this debate, and we also have a special prize this afternoon for best rebuttal. Some of the prizes are not here, and they will come after, but there are quite a few prizes to be given. Now, there are two scores I will read. One team scored 668 points out of a possible 780 points, and another team scored 646 points out of the possible 780. The team scoring 668, the winning team, is the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy, and the runner-up this afternoon is the St. Mary's Academy. And it's an interesting afternoon, because this is the second time the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy is coming up against the St. Mary's Academy. These two schools faced off against each other in round one. The result was different. The Alpha Waldron SDA proceeded to round two because they had the highest score of a school that did not win in round one, and now they have made it to the finals. Congratulations to the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy and to the St. Mary's Academy for the strong fight. Fought them in round one and came back to fight them in the semifinals. The best speaker in this afternoon's debate was judged to be Miss Berger Bertrand of the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy. And the best rebuttal was judged as Mr. Ajanaya Kazimi of the St. Mary's Academy. So now I'd like to do some presentations of prizes. So firstly, I will call on the boys from the St. Mary's Academy, Mr. Ajanaya Kazimi and Mr. Jahaziel John, to receive their prizes and their trophies. Come forward. The two can come. So Mr. Kazimi, first speaker, congratulations. And the gift bag. And Mr. John. And just to tell our viewers, the students are receiving, the runners-up are receiving gift certificates from Body Bliss Spa. They are receiving a gift certificate from HHV Whitchurch and Company Limited. They are receiving some Bluetooth headphones from one of our sponsors. They will also be receiving vouchers on Val Ferry. It's big. So quite a few prizes for our runners-up. Let me call on Mr. Kazimi, who won the award for the best rebuttal. He receives a gift certificate from Lovely Things. Best rebuttal, Mr. Ajanaya Kazimi. Congratulations. And let me call on the coach from the St. Mary's Academy, Mrs. Kushna Telemak Rabes, who has coached and assisted the students. One feature of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition is that we recognize the coaches, because as a coach myself for umpteen years, we often don't get any recognition, and we know the coaches put in a lot of hard work. So congratulations, Mrs. Rabes, and thank you so much for bringing your team all the way to the semi-finals. And now I would like to call on the winners of this afternoon's debate from the Afro Waldron SDA Academy, Miss Berja Bertrand and Miss Shireen Carbon, to receive their prizes. Their trophy, yes. So the winners this afternoon, this is the first round we're giving the winners a prize. Flo has sponsored, each winner will be getting a Fire tablet from Flo, their Bluetooth headphones as well. Congratulations. And the best speaker, Ms. Bertrand, also receives her trophy for winning that award. Best speaker in this afternoon's debate, Ms. Berja Bertrand of the Afro Waldron SDA Academy. So, no. This concludes the first semi-final debate. The coach, my Mrs. Williams asked me about the prize for the coach. The coach is moving to the finals. So, so in the finals, we will see the coach, the coaches, the support team of the Afro Waldron SDA Academy, and so you will be rewarded at that time. So thank you very much. If the winners of this debate would like to stay and see their competition, they are free to do so. The next debate coming up right now is the Northeast Comprehensive School against the Orion Academy. But this concludes the first semi-final debate. The judges, thank you so much. We have some tokens for you, so I'll call you up to receive your tokens. I'll call on Mrs. Elizabeth Xavier Daly to receive her token from us for her job this afternoon. Thank you. Mr. David Edwards, the Chief Judge.
So we have just seen the end of the first semi-final round, where the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy were victorious, and they are going to be moving on to the finals. They receive 668 points out of a possible 780 to defeat the St. Mary's Academy, who received 646 points. Only a 22-point difference. However, the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy has been named victorious in this debate. The best speaker was Berja Bertrand, the first speaker for the AWSDAA, and the best rebuttal went to Ajanaya Kazimi of the St. Mary's Academy. This was a very tight debate, as I said, only 22 points difference between the two teams. However, the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy will be moving on to the finals to face whoever wins in the next debate. The next debate comes up soon as the room clears. The next debate is between the Northeast Comprehensive School and the Orion Academy, where they will debate the moot: social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. The proposing team on this topic will be the NECS, the Northeast Comprehensive School, with their first speaker being Tiana Smith, second speaker Kyra Parker, and the Orion Academy will oppose that topic. First speaker Lena McGlaw, and the second speaker Diamond Daniel. So we await the start of the second semifinals round, and whoever wins in that second semifinals will take on the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy at the finals. And we heard that the finals will take place on April 5th. Once again, you are tuned in to DBS Radio, the nation station, at the semifinals of the secondary schools, the inter-secondary schools debating competition here at the Fort Young Hotel. We thank you for tuning in to DBS Radio, and stay tuned to the second semifinals round, where the Orion Academy will take on the Northeast Comprehensive School on the topic social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. To recap the results of the first semifinals, SMA was defeated by the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy 668 points to 646 points. The best speaker, Berger Bertrand of the SDA Academy. Best rebuttal, Ajanaya Kazemi of the St. Mary's Academy. Thank you for tuning in to DBS Radio, and stay tuned for the second semifinal round, where the Orion Academy will take on the Northeast Comprehensive School.
Let me know when you are ready. And has progressed through 2 rounds, this being the 3rd round. And this afternoon we are looking to see which school will make it to the finals. We have just concluded the first semi-final debate, which was between the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy and the St. Mary's Academy. And the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy won that debate and will be proceeding to the finals. So we are now here to see who will be joining them in that competition on April 5th. Okay? So let me remind you all of the rules, and I say remind because most people here have been at a debate already, have taken part for the debaters, and of course the listeners as well would have heard me say the rules in the first competition this afternoon. But to make sure everybody's on the same page, let me reiterate the rules. So, in this debate this afternoon, the leader of the proposition will have 10 minutes maximum time to deliver his or her case, and the leader of the opposition will also have 10 minutes maximum time to deliver his or her case. Following the first speaker's presentations, the second speaker of the proposition will have a maximum time of 7 minutes to deliver his or her case, and the second speaker of the opposition will have 7 minutes as well to deliver his or her case. After this prepared presentation aspect of the debate, we will have a 5-minute break in which the debaters will prepare for the rebuttal. The rebuttal should be a maximum of 3 minutes, and the leader of both the proposition and of the opposition will deliver the rebuttal on behalf of their team. At the end of each speaker's allotted time, they will vacate the podium, and to remind our speakers, the timekeeper who is seated in front of you will give a warning sign 1 minute before the expiration of your time, and again will give another signal when the time has expired or ended. Okay? So the timekeeper is directly in front of the podium. Following the rebuttals, the judges will be escorted to a separate location where they will deliberate, and they will return with the results that we will be anticipating highly. During the time that we're waiting for the results, I will lead you, the audience, in an open discussion on the moot. Okay, so these are the proceedings, the rules for this afternoon. I'd like to ask everyone at this time to make sure that when we begin, you turn off or put your phones on silent so that you do not disturb the debaters. Okay? This afternoon, we are joined by 3 judges who will be tasked with determining which school is proceeding to the finals. We have with us this afternoon Mrs. Andrea Christian, who is a former principal. She was the principal of the St. Martin's Secondary School. She's a longtime educator. She also told me she enjoys adventure, and this is a very, this fits in. It's a debate. It's going to be exciting, and this is an adventure. So we welcome Mrs. Andrea Christian, who will be judging this afternoon. Welcome. We also have with us Mr. Philip Roll, who is the coordinator of the Dominica Youth Business Trust, and he's also the deputy speaker of the House. And as I reminded him, he's a past debater, represented the St. Mary's Academy, and I was fortunate to judge a debate in which he debated in years ago, not that long ago, because we're both very young. And we have also Mr. Anthony Edwards. Mr. Edwards will be serving as the chief judge this afternoon. He is the owner of Shop DM, which is an e-commerce company that connects local companies to buyers all over the world. He studied technology and business. We are pleased to welcome Mr. Edwards as our chief judge this afternoon. So, our judges are in place. Now, let's get into real business. The moot for this afternoon's debate. Social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. And I will repeat, social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. Proposing this topic is the Northeast Comprehensive School, and opposing is the Orion Academy. Now, I'd like to call on the debaters from each school to take their positions at the front of the room. Now it's your time. The Northeast Comprehensive School will be represented by Ms. Tiana Smith, and Miss Kira Parker. I welcome them both to their table. You can sit on this side. Miss Smith, Tiana Smith. And Miss Kira Parker. Representing the Orion Academy, we have Miss Lena Maglaw, who will be the first speaker, and Diamond Daniel, second speaker. We welcome them. To the front. So our debaters are in place, our judges are in place, our media houses are recording, we're ready. Audience, your line please. Yes, is everybody ready? Okay, debaters, are you all ready? Okay, I like to say in debating, you know, the old wrestling phrase, let's get ready to rumble. It's debate time. So I will call on the first speaker of the proposing team, the Northeast Comprehensive School, Miss Tiana Smith. She has 10 minutes to deliver her arguments. Let's welcome her to the podium, Miss Smith.
Honorable judges, Madam Moderator, specially invited guests, the media, members of the audience here and abroad, and my most worthy opponents, a pleasant good afternoon. Today, my colleague and I stand in stern support of the topic, social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. Honorable judges, my arguments today are hinged on the fact that social media use, 1, allows high school students to make positive connections to the world around them, thus ensuring their social and intellectual development. 2, facilitates the building of platforms for raising awareness globally on social issues which contribute to their moral development and self-esteem. 3, allows us as high schoolers to grow spiritually in our Christian faith. 4, provides a wide range of business and financial opportunities for high schoolers, and as a result, contributes to their holistic development. Madam Moderator, before I delve into today's arguments, allow me to define a few key terms of this proposition. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and I quote, social media are a set of applications and websites that provides users with a platform for creating and sharing information, ideas, interests, and other forms of expressions through virtual communities and networks. Beneficial means improving a situation or having a helpful or useful effect. End of quote. Helsinki International Schools define holistic development as the social, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, and intellectual growth of a person. Cambridge Dictionary defines a high school student as someone who is attending a public or private secondary school. Honorable judges, without a doubt, the use of social media allows high school students to connect to the world around them, which greatly benefits their social and intellectual development as future leaders and professionals. Madam Moderator, the evidence is right here as we speak. Thanks to the use of social media, such as Facebook, we as high school students at this very moment are dissecting ideas on critical issues on the global stage. Honorable judges, this enhances our public speaking and leadership skills and allows us to influence our society and the world by extension. Moreover, esteemed judges, this global presence via social media also creates avenues for collaboration, scholarship opportunities, job opportunities, among other benefits to our high schoolers. Further, Madam Moderator, we can all testify that the era of COVID-19, more than anything else, brought home the very critical importance of the use of social media in our students' holistic development. Worthy opponents, every single aspect of our life has benefited from social media use. For example, high schoolers were able to participate in functions such as graduation ceremonies, hospital visits, weddings, family meetings, shows, classes, church services, and even funerals through the use of social media. Further, Madam Moderator, experts in the field of epidemiology, such as Dr. Anthony Fauci, have put the world on notice that we should be prepared for future pandemics that will be worse than COVID-19. This means that it is of utmost importance that parents and teachers ensure that our students are versed in the use of social media to be able to excel in every aspect of their daily lives, given these eventualities. Additionally, in our consultation with Dr. Laura John Baptist, an e-learning senior consultant and university lecturer, she confirmed that social media use facilitates the building of platforms for raising awareness globally on social issues. This contributes to the moral development of students and their self-esteem. Worthy opponents, the use of social media allows high schoolers to get involved in community projects which benefit society and the world by extension. Madam Moderator, this ensures that high schoolers develop the capacity for exercising responsible community and global citizenship, both integral parts of their holistic development. One of the most poignant examples of this beneficial use of social media in the development of responsible global citizenship is the case of young Swedish environmental activist Greta Thunberg. In 2018, at only 15, she launched a student movement in Sweden for climate change, which galvanized global support and culminated in a global movement called Youth Strike for Climate Change. It was only through the unifying effect of social media that this campaign could have made it to a global audience. This movement has demanded action from political leaders to mitigate climate change, and also demanded that the fossil fuel industries transition to renewable energy. Worthy opponents, this effective use of social media resulted in a 15-year-old being afforded the opportunity to address world leaders at the United Nations in 2019. It also resonated with every teenager that we, like Greta, could make a difference in the world. Esteemed judges, yet another powerful example is the case of young Malala Yousafzai, who through the use of social media was able to raise global awareness regarding the importance of securing education for young girls in Pakistan. In so doing, she was able to galvanize global support for girls in Pakistan. In 2014, Malala was awarded a Nobel Prize at the young age of 17. My dear opponents, I am sure you will agree that these are two powerful examples of the use of social media in facilitating the development of global leadership skills in high schoolers. Honorable judges, social media such as Facebook and YouTube are effective tools used by pastors, gospel artists, and evangelists to facilitate spiritual development in the Christian life of high schoolers. In our consultation with Pastor Oliver Wallace, Deputy Welfare Officer, he confirmed that almost every church in Dominica and around the world broadcasts live services using social media, which our students are well able to access. Also, social media use enables students to access gospel music and other Christian programs which enhance their spiritual growth. Worthy opponents, isn't Christian spiritual growth an important aspect of one's holistic development? It most definitely is. Honorable judges, social media allows high schoolers to produce, promote, and sell music videos, blogs, films, and other products. This fosters the development of entrepreneurial skills. Esteemed judges, I, as a high school student, am presently using platforms such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram to promote and sell jewelry and clothing items. This has enabled me to develop my skills as a young entrepreneur. Further, young artists such as the Smith Brothers of Dominica, Coffee of Jamaica, and countless other high schoolers around the world have been able to use social media in similar fashion, which enables them to earn income and become self-sufficient. Honorable judges, it is clear there is absolutely no doubt that the use of social media is very beneficial and essential in the holistic development of high school students. My colleague will further expound on the critical issues of this debate.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. For the judges, her time was 9 minutes and 47 seconds. I now call on the leader of the opposition from the Orion Academy to deliver her arguments. She has 10 minutes to do so. I welcome Ms. Lena Maglaw to the podium.
Famous CEO and billionaire Warren Buffett said, "The most dangerous distractions are the ones you love, but that don't love you back." Madam Moderator, honorable judges, generous sponsors, our gracious audience, and our capable opponents, a pleasant good afternoon to you all. A survey published in the New York Times shows that teens spend on average over 5 hours a day on social media. Unquestionably, high school students love social media, but does it love us back, or is it nothing but a dangerous distraction? The topic being debated today is, social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. My teammates and I wholeheartedly disagree, and after we have presented a total of 6 irrefutable arguments, judges, we know you will too. Social media is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. While social media is certainly popular, it is absurd to claim that it is actually beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. According to the Nurturing Early Learners website, an initiative developed by the Ministry of Education in Singapore, the term holistic development takes into account the whole child and emphasizes the importance of their physical, social, emotional, cognitive, moral, and creative abilities. For any activity to be beneficial to the holistic development of a student, it must contribute in whole or part to these 6 aspects of their well-being. My teammates and I will prove that not only does social media provide no advantage in these areas, it is actually detrimental. I will address how social media has in fact been damaging to 3 of the 6 aspects of holistic development. 1, the physical, 2, the social, and 3, the emotional. To get started,
Let's look at the physical impact of social media on high school students. Madam Moderator, as I previously stated, the average teen spends hours a day on social media. This is not simply due to an immature lack of self-control, as my opponents may argue. According to a research study published by the National Library of Medicine, during adolescent brain development, it is believed that the brain regions associated with processing emotions mature earlier than the prefrontal cortex region, the region associated with logic and decision-making. Psychologist David Walsh writes, "It is as if a teenager's brain has a fully functional car accelerator, but the brakes have not yet been properly installed." Teens are therefore much more susceptible to highly addictive substances or activities. Is social media really that addictive? Another article published by the National Library of Medicine stated, and I quote, "Social media provides immediate rewards in the form of a dopamine release every time you post or get a notification from the app. This constant barrage of shallow rewards rewires your brain to want more of what caused that dopamine release, which leads to social media addiction." Honorable judges, social media actually physically modifies the neural pathways of a teenager's brain until it resembles that of a drug addict. How is that beneficial to their holistic development? Even the moderate user is at risk of experiencing this restructuring of the brain that may cause them to spend more and more time on the social media platform. And the horrible effects do not stop there. A study done at the University of Buffalo showed that research participants who used social media excessively were found to have higher levels of C-reactive protein, also known as CRP, a biological marker of chronic inflammation that predicts serious illnesses such as diabetes, certain cancers, and even cardiovascular disease. In addition to elevated CRP levels, results suggest higher social media use was also related to somatic symptoms like headaches, chest pains, and back pains. Why? Because the dopamine reward that comes from riding a bike, taking a walk, going for a swim, is now unsatisfactory in comparison to the one the user gains from scrolling the endless stream of meaningless videos and posts. This leaves very little motivation to engage in physical activity, which has a detrimental effect on their health. What a vicious and dangerous cycle. Secondly, let us examine the effects that social media use has had on the social development of high school students. In order to be well adjusted socially, a student needs to develop good communication skills. This includes being able to effectively initiate and maintain an intelligent conversation. These skills are key to achieving academic and professional success. But we learn these essential skills mainly through face-to-face interactions. Madam Moderator, reflect for a moment. How many times have we all experienced this sad, sad scene? A group of teenagers gather together, but there is no conversing. Every last one of them is staring at a phone, scrolling through social media. Honorable judges, high school students have become uncomfortable with real conversations. Capable opponents, high school students should be preparing to face the real world, and yet, because of social media, they no longer have the necessary social skills to impress a potential employer or university recruiter. Clearly, it is destroying their holistic development, not benefiting it. Last, but most certainly not least, let us examine the emotional effects. A Mayo Clinic article cited a study of more than 450 teens, where it was discovered that greater social media use was linked with worse sleep quality and higher levels of anxiety and depression. Social media often promotes the idea that high school students must look a certain way and afford a certain lifestyle to be socially accepted. Admittedly, Learning to cope with peer pressure is a necessary part of growing up. But there is a vast difference between peer pressure that stems from a closed circle, such as your school or your community, and the one that comes from thousands and thousands of strangers online, in addition to your peers. This heavy emotional burden has caused many teenagers to suffer from emotional disorders, such as body dysmorphia, insecurity, and even several eating disorders. And in certain cases, this has even led to suicide. Capable opponents, the verdict is in, and social media has been judged guilty of having a detrimental effect on the physical, social, and emotional development of high school students. Therefore, it absolutely cannot be beneficial to their holistic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maglow. For the judges, her time was 8 minutes and 31 seconds. I'd now like to call on the second speaker from the proposing team from the Northeast Comprehensive School to deliver her arguments. She will have 7 minutes in which to do so. Ms. Kira Parker, second speaker of the Northeast Comprehensive School, I welcome you to the podium.
Madam Moderator, my colleague has established protocol and I adhere to this. I rise now to offer support to her in proposition of the topic, social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. I will do this by exploring the following. 1. Social media use is an essential part of the successful functioning of secondary schools in Dominica and elsewhere. 2. The use of social media enables high school students to access medical information, thus enhancing their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. 3. Social media use enhances social emotional learning in high school students. Honorable judges, our extensive research has confirmed that 100% of high schools in Dominica utilize social media to facilitate the educational development of students. In fact, honorable judges, one of the schools which makes excellent use of social media in the holistic development of high school students is the very school of our dear opponents, the Orion Academy. Honorable judges, it is highly exemplary and we are very supportive of this. Our dear opponents are indeed aware of the fact that their school makes extensive use of social media such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And how does this facilitate the holistic development of students? Esteemed judges, the school's Facebook platform and other social media were used to facilitate the GoFundMe effort, raising over $15,000 towards the school's rebuilding efforts, the promotion of the various clubs such as the Environmental Club to create environmental awareness and foster development of leadership skills. Also, honorable judges, the cultivation of an excellent communication network between administrators, teachers, students, and parents as well as other stakeholders. This, of course, is very commendable, for it is all in an effort to facilitate the growth and holistic development of high school students. In fact, honorable judges, most secondary schools around the world use social media in a similar fashion. Our research also indicated that secondary schools use social media as an essential part of their communication system and in the delivery of academic programs. This enhances the intellectual development of students. Also, Madam Moderator, in consultation with a language lecturer of the Faculty of Education of the Dominica State College, it was confirmed that the Ministry of Education, which is the highest education policy making body on island, has made it mandatory that all teachers are to be trained in the use of social media in the delivery of educational programs in Dominica. According to researcher Sarah Kessler, and I quote, "The results of a social media pilot program in Portland revealed that the use of social media improved students' academic performance by 50%. Platforms such as YouTube are used in the sciences and other subject areas to enhance students' learning and to teach life skills. Facebook is used to do research for SBAs and other projects. The use of these social media facilitates the development of technical skills and cognitive abilities such as reasoning, problem solving, planning, and abstract thinking of students. Additionally, honorable judges, according to the American Journal of Public Health, social media use enables high schoolers and their parents to access medical information regarding disease prevention, physical fitness, nutrition, skincare, and sexuality, which is critical to their physical, emotional, and mental development. Further, social media platforms are effective in offering behavioral counseling, which helps students with emotional problems. According to Dr. Jackie Gerstein, education specialist, and I quote, "Social media allows students to accomplish many tasks that are important to them. Social media can offer adolescents deeper benefits that extend into their view of self, community, and the world," end of quote. She further suggests that social media helps students manage their emotions, resolve conflicts nonviolently, and make responsible decisions. She added that social and emotional learning results in the reduction in violence among students. Honorable judges, this directly refutes the questionable arguments presented by my opponents. Dr. Gerstein states that social media levels the playing field for those with special needs. Furthermore, it allows students from third world countries to bridge the digital gap. Honorable judges, despite the arguments presented by my opponents, the evidence shows that teens report that their experience of social media is better than what others think. In a 2022 Pew Research Center survey of high schoolers around the United States, revealed that 80% of the students, through the use of social media, felt connected with friends. 71% said it is a place where they can show their creativity. 67% said that social media reassures them that they have people to support them through tough times. And 58% said it makes them feel more accepted. Worthy opponents, this clearly shows that the use of social media enhances the mental and emotional well-being of high school students. Esteemed judges, we have provided overwhelming evidence which shows that the use of social media has tremendous benefits for the academic, social, emotional, intellectual, mental, and spiritual enhancement of high schoolers, which directly contributes to their holistic development.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. For the judges, her time was 7 minutes and 15 seconds. We now move to the second speaker on the opposing team from the Orion Academy, Ms. Diamond Daniel. She has 7 minutes to deliver her argument. Ms. Daniel, we welcome you to the podium.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, generous sponsors, our gracious audience, and our worthy opponents. A pleasant good afternoon to you all. Our opponents propose that social media use is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. However, my teammates and I firmly disagree. I am sure after listening to an eloquent delivery from my colleague, everyone here feels the same way. How could we not? After she explained that social media affects high school students physically by actually rewiring their brains to create addiction, socially by robbing them of the critical social skills they need to function in this world, and emotionally by promoting a long list of emotional disorders, leaving hundreds of high school students broken. Judges, the facts presented already provide sufficient proof. I will now discuss 3 of the factors, and then evidence will be overwhelming. We will now consider how social media is destructive to the holistic development of high school students as it relates to their cognitive, moral, and creative development. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines the word cognitive as relating to, being, or involving conscious intellectual activity, such as thinking, reasoning, or remembering. Madam Moderator, high school is a time for students to sharpen and improve their cognitive ability, not dull them. And yet, this is exactly what social media does. An article from neurogrow.com, which is a reputable neurological information and treatment portal, states, and I quote, "Heavy social media users perform worse on cognitive tests, especially those that examine their attention and ability to multitask. They need to exert more effort to remain focused in the face of distraction. Researchers hypothesize that since social media competes for your attention with the promise of perpetual new content, social media users become less able to ignore distraction in general. Not only does this lead to poorer cognitive performance, but it shrinks parts of the brain associated with maintaining attention. This ability of the brain to change is called neuroplasticity, and it has a big effect on your attention and cognitive function." End of quote. Most worthy opponents, social media is contributing to high school students having a diminished mental capacity. This research is not just statistics in a lab. Ask any teacher who has taught for a number of years at any high school, and they will confirm how true this is. Limited attention span, lack of ability to multitask, lack of focus. They lament that every year it gets worse. Honorable judges, the scientific evidence is clear. Social media has played a huge part in the gradual cognitive degeneration of students. Something that is good for one's holistic development must be beneficial for mental growth and improvement. But Madam Moderator, social media is a destroyer of minds. Secondly, social media has a negative effect on the moral development of high school students. Social media users experience lowered inhibitions, which makes it easier to be drawn to violent and degrading content. And such content exists on social media platforms in abundance. Worthy opponents, our peers are liking and sharing videos that feature the exploitation of vulnerable young women, the violent and bloody fights among schoolmates, and the disrespectful humiliation of the homeless and the disadvantaged. Judges, this is not a minority view. It is the opinion of many in our society. As we know, Calypso is social commentary. Popular 2023 Calypso finalist Shanice echoes the concerns of many in her song entitled #Concern. She sings, "Misconduct online is trending. Tell me, what's the message we sending? Is anything for comments and likes? Warping the children's minds? You know that can't be right. To create a generation with no love, no compassion, is to condemn ourselves to annihilation." These words echoed in the hearts of many
because our society have been feeling the effects of the callous and disconnected demeanor that social media has been producing. Worthy opponents, clearly, social media is not even beneficial to the development of our society. So how can it be beneficial to the holistic development of high school students? Finally, let us discuss how social media has a negative impact on the creative development of high school students. Many people may believe that social media is an excellent avenue to develop creativity, but let me prove to you why it is not. In a study done by the University of Pennsylvania, it was discovered that people who use social media are less likely to come up with new ideas and more likely to conform to group norms. The study's author suggests that social media may make it harder for people to think outside the box. Don't get me wrong, a small percentage of the content available on social media does come from original ideas. However, Madam Moderator, we must admit that most of the dances, challenges, and even digital products are just clones of whatever is trending. Clearly, social media is slowly chipping away at our creativity. Madam Moderator, in review, we have proven that social media negatively affects the cognitive, moral, and creative development of teens. Therefore, it is abundantly obvious that it can never be beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Danielle. For the judges, her time was 6 minutes and 51 seconds. So this concludes the prepared argument segment of the debate. And now the students have 5 minutes in which to prepare their rebuttals. The leader of each team will do so. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the many sponsors of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. Of course, it has been a Herculean effort to put this competition on, and without the generosity of our sponsors, we would not have been able to get here. So I'd like to thank New India Assurance, who is sponsoring the grand prize for the winners at the finals, which is a trip for 4, all expenses paid to St. Lucia. AC Shillingford and Company Limited, Promex Milk. Domlec, who is sponsoring the finals. Lindomart, the KFC division of Fine Foods Inc., Q95 Radio, DBS Radio, who is covering this debate live and who is also offering a special monetary prize to the best overall speaker in the semifinals. UE Open Campus, where we held several of the round 1 and 2 debates. The Insurance Company of the West Indies, the Public Service Union, also a home to round 1 and round 2 debates. Body Bliss Spa, which is providing prizes this afternoon. The National Bank of Dominica, Flow Dominica, also providing prizes this afternoon. The WASCO, Freeman Consulting Group LLC, who has been providing prizes to the runners-up, and this is a small minority-owned business owned and operated by Mutessa Freeman, who is a diasporan. She's based in Washington, D.C. We also thank Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, Dominica News Online for the live coverage this afternoon and throughout the competition, Digicel, Vibian TV also covering live, Western Illinois University, Val Ferry, who is providing prizes this afternoon and for the finals, Creole Heartbeat, Springfield Trading Limited, National Cooperative Credit Union, and Lovely Things also providing prizes. So thank you so much to our sponsors. I will now be quiet and give the debaters the remaining time to prepare their rebuttal.
Honorable judges, my opponent spoke about anxiety and depression, lack of communication and social skills, and a negative effect on the morality of high schoolers in their futile attempt to prove that the use of social media is not beneficial. However, these arguments are null and void. Esteemed judges, according to the American Journal of Public Health, social media platforms are effective in offering behavioral counseling, which helps students with emotional problems. This clearly enhances their mental health. Madam Moderator, Dr. Gerstein, educational specialist, has established that social media use helps students manage their emotions, resolve conflicts non-violently, and make responsible decisions. Worthy opponents, all critical parts of holistic development, which renders your argument invalid. Honorable judges, our opponent's argument do not take away from the fact that the use of social media contributes to the enhancement of technical skills, entrepreneurial skills, social skills, academic performance, intellectual and cognitive abilities. The use of social media helps us as students to grow spiritually in our Christian faith. It allows us to influence society, puts us on the global stage, creating avenues for meaningful collaborations, scholarship and job opportunities, all directly contributing to our holistic development as high schoolers. Worthy opponents, if social media use were not beneficial, as you suggested, would all secondary schools on island, including the Orion Academy, make such extensive use of social media? Definitely not. Honorable judges, the fact that the Ministry of Education, the Dominica State College, and all high schools in Dominica adopted the use of social media to facilitate education of students further proves that my opponent's arguments are null and void, and the use of social media is beneficial to the holistic development of high schoolers. Honorable judges, nothing my opponents have presented takes away from the reality that social media use is indeed beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. I therefore rest my case.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. For the judges, her time was 2 minutes and 45 seconds. I now call on the leader of the opposing team from the Orion Academy to deliver her rebuttal. I welcome Ms. Selena Maglaw to the podium. Ms. Maglaw.
Good afternoon to all once again. Honorable judges, my worthy opponent stated that social media was beneficial to students in COVID times. But students in the audience, how many times have you caught yourself scrolling through social media when you should be attending class or doing work? They also stated it was beneficial to attend graduations, funerals, and church services, but all of this can be done through some other means, such as Meet. They also stated that it enhances their ability to speak publicly. But how is this so when students spend all their time at home scrolling on their phone and not speaking publicly? They are scrolling through social media. Honorable judges, how many times have you looked up your symptoms and it stated that you are going to die in a few days? Well, they stated that you can look up your symptoms, but it's all wrong. My capable opponents also stated that Facebook and YouTube are means of communication and are social media. My capable opponents, there are other digital methods of communication available. The very email clients that we use so regularly, Gmail, actually has a live chat, and there are several other live chat platforms that do not possess the distracting elements of social media. Judges, my opponents have clearly been affected by the use of social media because it has narrowed their view on what other tools are available. As a matter of fact, I can confidently say that every single advantage that they listed, communication, socialization, research, expression of creativity, can all be achieved through some other means of more productive means on the internet, without the harmful effects of social media. An abundance of research has proven how detrimental social media has been to the social, physical, emotional, cognitive, and moral and creative development of high school students. Therefore, we stand firm in our conviction that it cannot be beneficial to their holistic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maglaw. For the judges, her time was 2 minutes and 23 seconds. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our second semi-final debate between the Northeast Comprehensive School and the Orion Academy. Let's give the students a big round of applause for taking up this task of defending their school, representing their school, and seeking a position in the finals. I would now like to ask the judge's assistant to escort the judges. The ball is now in their court to determine who will be going to the finals. So the judge's assistant, Ms. Corbett, will escort them to a private location so they can deliberate and return in quick time with our results. I always give Janice this task because she's a good time manager and she keeps them to task with their time. So the judges will return when they have come up with their results. I would now like to ask the students, and we can give them another round of applause. They can rejoin their classmates. Students from the Northeast Comprehensive School, Ms. Tiana Smith, Ms. Kira Parker, and from the Orion Academy, Ms. Selena Maglo and Ms. Diamond Daniel. Thank you so much for your work this afternoon. You can relax now. All right, so this is the semifinals of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. We have gone through several rounds. And normally what we do whilst we're waiting for the judges to come back with a decision is we engage in a discussion on the moot. So not on the debaters or their performance, but rather on the topic and, you know, our views on the topic or different aspects of the topic. So this afternoon's moot was on social media and whether or not it is beneficial to the holistic development of high school students. Of course, we have high school students in the room from both the Orion Academy and from the Northeast Comprehensive School. So I would like to know your views on social media use. Do you really think it is beneficial to you as a high school student, or do you think there are some aspects that are detrimental to you? What are your true feelings on social media? So the competition is essentially over. So you can give your true views, even if you are from a school that opposes that view in this debate. So let's hear from you. Megan, you ready? Yes. So anybody wants to contribute their view to this topic? What do you think? I see some chatter from the Northeast Comprehensive School. I suspect the mic should go over there. Megan, you can start to head over there. Do we have anybody who wants to tell me what they think about the social media use? Yes? Megan, she's laughing. She has something to say. What do you think? Okay, so she's shy, but I know people have some views. Can you tell me what you think about social media use? Yes.
I think that social media use is beneficial to the
I think that social media use is beneficial to students because it can help them communicate through each other. Like if they miss homework and things like that, they can communicate with each other. They can communicate with their teachers, and it can be a lot quicker than sending like an email, because mostly in your emails you get a lot of junk mail, and it might go to the junk instead of to things that the people can actually see.
Okay.
Also it can help students get information on topics and help them study and other things like that.
Okay, so I want to know the honest opinion of the students in the room on his point about getting information. How many of you really use social media to get information? Let's think about our platforms like our Instagram, our Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat. Are we still using Snapchat, guys? Okay. It depends. Okay. So how much of your use, to be honest, let's be honest. How much of the usage is for information seeking purposes? Who wants to speak to me on that? Yes, I have a young man at the front. You can stand, yes.
So, Miss, basically,
go ahead.
So, Miss, I can create in WhatsApp groups.
Mm-hmm.
So you can when you have homework to do or project, you can communicate together, and you can share information based on the topic you have to really delve into.
Okay.
So, and also, Miss, you can use another platform such as like Discord, where you can organize study groups. You can meet over the phone to do the homework actually in real time and get points from your study buddies, and so it helps benefit us in that way.
Okay, so he's saying you can use WhatsApp, to communicate on assignments, etc. And you mentioned something else. What other platform? Discord. You see, I'm not even up to date on all the options that exist. But what I do notice about WhatsApp, though, and so I'm going to tease you with another aspect of conversation. There are WhatsApp groups to share information. As an educator myself, I am a part of multiple student WhatsApp groups designed to, share information. And what I see being shared, rather, is funny stickers and very little actual communication in words, but rather just stickers that people use to maybe poke fun at something or laugh in response to something. What is your take on the use of social media really a lot of times to just poke fun at things, kicks off, that aspect of it? So for the young people here, is that what social media is to you? That's what I'm noticing, but is that what it is to you? Who wants to comment on that? Anybody from the State College, you can comment as well. Yes. Okay. Jeudina at the back.
In relation to social media, one of the things that I've realized it was it actually destroyed the English language. So, for example, people would be having a conversation. Sometimes me, myself, get confused. I mean, as a young person, somebody tried to say, "What are you doing?" And then it's a W-U-D, wood. Or they say, how are you? And they'd go, H-R-U, her. So I'm trying to understand, what is going on? Because people barely text complete sentences anymore. If you don't know the text language, then you will be lost in a conversation. This is one of the things that social media has done.
Thank you for that contribution. Who wants to follow through on what she is saying as it relates to the destruction of the English language? We also have educators in the room.
Yeah, I was going to comment based on what she just said. Like literally, if I'm having a conversation with an older person, and I use HRU, they would be like, huh? And then I would have to say, how are you? Or you see the little terms, like they really don't know what we're talking about. Especially if you have to use like terms like trainer or all these young terms we're using right now, like all these Gen Z terms, like older people really don't know what we're talking about. So I just feel like it messed up a sense of how we speak and communicate. But at the same time, we understand what we're saying, but we also have to keep in mind the professionalism in terms of school, and when we're talking to our older generation, we have to be compassionate to them as well.
Thank you for that. And I suspect I am in the older generation because I am starting to not understand some of the abbreviations that are being used. I don't even use HRU. I wasn't even aware of that one. I mean, I know WYD, Geraldine, I didn't know WUD. So I am slowly getting into the older generation. Yes, Mrs. Williams?
Yes, further to emphasize or add on this point, it becomes a challenge. So as much as this is a way of communicating for this generation and you'll understand each other, what happens is it carries on over to speaking in public, email, writing, trying to write an essay, you end up writing the abbreviated text. And I'm saying that coming from someone who works at the Dominica State College. I have gotten emails from students and it's abbreviated text. And for me, that again shows how it destroys the English language, as the young lady said, and to the point where you cannot even speak or write proper English. So going forward for me, I know there are benefits to it, but at the same time, there are some disadvantages to the whole social media, because the primary one, being an English person myself, is the English language, and it always frustrates and annoys me when I get an email with all these abbreviated texts. And I respond in kind to say, please write in proper English, so that they can actually speak and write in proper English for me, and I can respond appropriately.
Thank you. Anybody wants to comment? Miss Danielle?
Other than just it affecting our English, I think he was the one that said that we can create groups online on WhatsApp for us to do our work and so on. But when you go on the group and like people taking time to respond and you press your little status button, you can sit down watching people's status for like a good 15 minutes and even forget what you actually came on WhatsApp to do, which was to help you get send a picture, or get an answer, or communicate with your fellow people. And the same thing goes for Instagram and TikTok, because everything has the flow of social media. Every time you just scroll up, it's updating and a new stream coming.
Thank you for that. So the time that you spend or waste on social media maybe outweighs the time that it's being used for the sharing of information that you originally wanted to do. Okay, you want to give a point? Go ahead.
Yes.
Megan, hold the mic for him, please.
Yes, I don't think it necessarily destroys the English language. This because if you master it already and using slang, it adds to your vocabulary. So basically, you know when to talk with young people, and you know when to talk with older people.
So you feel like you all have the discernment of knowing when to use the slang and to say, I have not seen that here. I have not seen that. So I don't know if that exists, but I personally have not seen the ability to switch. But I think it's important to be able to do so, and maybe we can encourage that, but it really is difficult for a lot of people to make that transition. Any of the, and I will pick on the educators again, we have teachers, coaches. Anybody wants to comment? Yes.
Yes, I was going to say another thing. Like, if everything, I believe it has disadvantages and advantages. Social media is the same. I remember I wasn't doing bad in school. I never did bad in school, but I remember my mother was so pissed off at me for being on the computer late. I remember she just ripped off the router and she said, no more internet, anything. And that was the best school year I had. I passed all my subjects. I almost came first place. I think I was second, and that was high school. And it's like, it just goes to show, like, whatever you do, just try not to get addicted to it, because we need social media. We need social media to communicate and betterment of our schools, but at the same time, we just have to know the limits and not to really get into it, because everything has an addiction. Whatever you eat, whatever you do, wherever you go, it has an addiction to it. It's just based on how you control yourself so that you won't get sucked into social media.
Thank you. A point, you wanted to? A point was made, somebody's volunteering? Okay, a point was made during the debate about the need for, I would say, affirmation from your peers through likes and comments on posts, and this constant need to be accepted, I guess, or for what you post to be liked. I want to hear from you guys once again. Do you feel honestly that pressure from social media to have that constant affirmation or validation from your peers when you post something? What if you post something and nobody responds or nobody likes it? You post a picture in what you think is your best outfit with your best face beat and your best hairstyle, no likes, no comments, or maybe one like, one comment. How does that affect you? I want some honest opinions from our students here. Yes, young man. So only one person wants to share.
So, Miss, if you post a picture and no one likes it, Miss, that's probably a you problem. I just say, Miss, if you post a picture, you're supposed to get at least a certain amount of likes. If you don't, Miss, you probably have no friends in real life.
So you see, okay, so I'm getting, but this is exactly the point. So it is now felt that if you post and people don't like, then you don't have friends or you have a problem. Now that is a very troubling viewpoint to have of yourself. If somebody doesn't like your picture, then you have a problem. Really? What does the young lady have to say? Yes, go ahead.
Well, Miss, if you do post a picture on Instagram or wherever you choose to post it, and no one doesn't like or comment, well, maybe they hating. Miss, you know, they may be hating. So, Miss, whether you do get a like or you do get a comment, you should have full pride of yourself. They don't have to like or comment for you to feel proud.
Okay. All right. So you should be confident in yourself. Even if you don't get that validation from others, you know you looked good or you did whatever you did well. Okay. So Miss Danielle, and then I had Miss Jayudina's hand has been up. Megan, where are you? Yes, so we had a hand up here. We've had hands up at the back.
Okay, adding to what he's saying, like if you post a picture and no one likes it, is a you problem. Personally, I would prefer they not like the picture, because sometimes you post a picture and so you was like, oh wow, that I looking 100 today, and somebody on the comments say, bon, Jim, I'm on white, or she don't see the skirt, or bon, Jay, that hairstyle not slaying, but like so things like that, they set fear in young people to like not express themselves how they would like to express themselves. So it creates a sort of restriction. Whereas social media is supposed to be a place where you can express yourself, because of some negative comments, which is what, adding to what one of them was saying, with emotional health that leads to suicide. Sometimes one of the causes of suicide is not peer pressure from within your circle, people you interact with, but it could be on social media. Because sometimes you post a picture and that one picture escalated so badly that some people, they do not have, how I can say, the emotional strength to withstand that criticism. So it leads to them taking their own life or going through dark depression. This is what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. And I saw some other hands up at the back. Go ahead.
Basically, what I was going to say was also how they were talking about how many times you find yourself in like an online class on social media instead of actually doing the class, how social media basically makes it so easy to not pay attention. There's no restrictions. And also when you're in class, if you're talking, a teacher can easily say, hey, stop that. But online, you don't really have that freedom with the students to help them with that.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I see more hands. Go ahead.
I was going to say that online, it's not just the judgment on posting pictures. It's also that, let's say, someone looks a certain way at school, it will spread to them talking about it online, and then they will bring that stuff back into school, what they said online, and it would really affect the person.
Right. So, and that is another important aspect. I don't know if somebody else wants to comment on that, but the judgment or the bullying that may occur via social media, how does that impact you? Do you think about that? Yes, go ahead.
I feel like judgment from social media can impact somebody very much, especially if they already have low self-esteem issues and things like that. But also on the flip side, I feel like if you're looking for validation from social media of all places, you really need to socialize in real life and find some people that you can connect with instead of going on social media and looking for validation from strangers.
Thank you. Thank you for that point. A hand was up at the back. I think Mr. Kazimi's hand has been up at the back.
I fully agree. I fully agree with his point, and also I find when women in particular see pictures of other women on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Instagram, they feel that, oh, my body has to look like that, I want it to look like that, and this sense a feel of low self confidence, if you understand. And it goes for men too. Some men see other guys on Instagram and they think like, okay, why am I not looking like that? I want to look like that. And they start to self-pity and start to feel like, oh, low self-esteem. And, you know, that creates a sort of wanting to be like someone else when you're just not that person, if you understand what I'm saying. And some of the things are not even real or not even true, or just maybe, how do I say it? Fake, like they add in things to it to make it look a certain way. And some people do not realize that, and they want to be like that, and they don't realize that that is not the actual reality of that person. So I find, yeah.
Thank you. So comparing yourself, using other people as a yardstick, we're saying that's facilitated by social media use. Who else wants to speak to that? Yes.
So I think that the use of social media, you really need to just train yourself on how to use it, because like as he was saying about, you would see a girl on Instagram and you'd be like, oh, why I don't look like that? Or you can use it as an opportunity to like have a role model. You can look at it as a role model. So like instantly, when you grow up, you'll probably look like that or something. But social media, you really just need to train yourself. And opposing to what she said about like the picture of when you know I don't like the picture or something like that, you can really choose your followers on these social media apps. Like you can put your account private and you can choose who follows you, like people you know, for example, people you know would support you and like your pictures, and friends.
Yes.
Miss, continuing on the question and the topic you was talking about, Miss, well, personally, I don't really like pictures. I don't know how, I can't deal with that thing in my face, you know. But I don't see why us as females or males, it doesn't matter, why we like to, put ourselves in a position where we have to think that we're not better than someone, or like we have to look at other people and say they're better than us, and we can never be like that. Miss, personally for me, confidence is key. So once you have confidence in yourself, you can always make it in life. And I don't see why we have to use filters on our thing to make our face look smaller or make it look bigger or nothing. Because what the Bible say? God make us in his image. Exactly. So you born how you were supposed to born, so embrace it. You look like that for a reason, so use it.
Thank you. Thank you. And she brought up an interesting point about filters. Back in the day when we had to go by DPEX to take a little picture, you know, and there was no alteration. Well, back in my day, and there was no alteration. But now we find ourselves, myself included, using all the different aspects of social media to change and fix up pictures. What do you think about that? Yes. Yes, Miss Daniel.
Miss, I find that, yes, it is true that sometimes people like to use like filters and other like editing apps and face photo editor apps to make themselves feel better. But one of those main causes, again, having like wanting to compare themselves to other people. So they checking, oh, that girl have clear skin and thing. So they too want to be like that when they post their picture and how many people in their likes and commenting hats on under their posts and whatnot. But personally, I think you shouldn't care about what people think about you, because as the girl was saying, is you are made how you are, and that is how you're supposed to be. And I think once you find a group, a good set of people, even if it's one or two people, because myself, I have a big friend group, my one friend in the crowd there, and that's it. So you just find people that you can love, and you what everybody else says doesn't really matter once you love yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. So that will wrap up our discussion segment because the judges are back. So what that means is that it is time to hear what they felt about this debate, to hear their critique, and to also get the results. So the time is drawing near, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call on the Chief Judge, Mr. Edwards, to give us the critique on behalf of the judges. Mr. Edwards?
Hi everyone. Thank you for having us, and thank you for putting on such a lively debate, where this is the second time I'm judging on this, and I'm always so impressed that, what you all can do as students, way more than I could do at your age. Okay, so just to be brief, both sides were really good. So we focused more on what you all could have done better. But the general really good points across both teams is that you all had a lot of research, and that really put at strength to your arguments. Remember, you all are all clearly very intelligent, and intelligent people can always come up with good sounding things. So the strength of your argument is gonna come from the research you do, and both sides did this. Both of them were quoting different sources, different studies, and I was really strong. Like, I think either side would have won very easily against a much easier, like an opponent that didn't do that much research. So it's good that both of you all did. Okay, things you could have done better. Like for some of this, it goes towards the opposition, something goes towards the proposition, but we're just giving it in general. One thing that both of your arguments could have probably benefited from is if you defined some of the technologies a little more clearly, like what is a social media technology versus what isn't. Like we heard about different types of technologies like Google Meet, and we also heard about like Instagram. And we as judges have ideas, but if you all had defined it very clearly, that would have helped us stay within the bounds of what you were thinking. Another thing that, again, more for some sides than others, but it's like it will always be stronger for you to give a small amount of very deeply explored points than for you to sort of, have more shallow points. So there's going to be more strength in 3 very deeply explored points with lots more backing it up than 6 or 7 more lightly backed up points. Just in general, and also for the presentation, I mean, probably I'm not doing it right now because I'm reading, but you want to be familiar enough with your material for you to not seem like you're reading your material, because that takes away from the presentation part of the scoring. But generally, I mean, both of you all did amazing, and that's, we want to see what you all go on to do, and hopefully you all can incorporate some of the feedback. I think the last point we had here is Again, just generally, it goes a bit for some more than others, but if you can, like one strategy we saw in this debate is to tie all the points together to a single model for like the general point, and that is a very strong approach. So I would advise that any teams that go on to do in the final, like you all can try to continue using that strategy, because it's way beyond what we expected to see from high school students. So that's very, very good, and if you continue doing that, it will help you going forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards, for your critique, and thank you to the judges. So the results are in. This afternoon, we will be, of course, awarding the winning team, and that team will move on to the finals. We also have prizes this afternoon for the best speaker and also for the best rebuttal, because we have people who have sponsored different prizes. Also, the best overall speaker for this afternoon will be awarded, meaning from debate 1 and 2. Okay, so the total scores are out of 780 points. We have one team which scored 678 points, and one team scored 570 points. So we have the winning team with a score of 678 points, being the opposing team from the Orion Academy has won. So congratulations to the Orion Academy, who have won and will be moving forward to the finals. The best speaker was judged to be the second speaker from the opposing team, which is the Orion Academy. And that was Miss Diamond Daniel. And I see here that we have the best rebuttal coming from the opposing team, as well, delivered by Miss Lena Maglaw. So, congratulations, congratulations. I now want to call the students up for their prizes. I will start with the students from the Northeast Comprehensive School, Miss Tiana Smith and Miss Kira Parker. They are receiving this afternoon prizes for their participation in this competition. They have been very formidable opponents throughout this competition, round 1, 2, and the semifinals. This afternoon, they will each receive a gift certificate from Body Bliss Spa. They will receive wireless Bluetooth headphones, their trophy. They will also be receiving gift vouchers from Val Ferry that will come in later, and also gift certificates from HHV Whitchurch and Company Limited. So we do have more prizes to give, and I do congratulate the students from the Northeast Comprehensive School and their coach. I would like to call on their coach, Miss Daly. I know they had several coaches. Mr. Gordon is there. I want to just call on Miss Daly to receive the prize for the coach, and I appreciate the efforts of the coaches for bringing the students thus far and helping them to compete. This is just the first step, and I'd like to say in debating, There is somebody who wins, there's somebody who loses, and you just move on. It's a life experience. You're going to benefit from it for life. I'd like to call on the winning team from the Orion Academy, Miss Lena Magloire and Miss Diamond Daniel, to receive their prizes. This afternoon, for the first time, we are giving the winners a prize, and their prize, why I say first time, because we've been waiting for them to get the grand prize in the finals. But this afternoon, the winners are receiving a Fire tablet from Flow, and their Bluetooth headsets. And the best speaker, Miss Daniel, will receive a trophy for being judged as the best speaker. And the best rebuttal, Miss Magloire will receive a prize from Lovely Things, and that is for the rebuttal, which was judged to be the best. So congratulations to the Orion Academy. They will be meeting the Alpha Waldron SDA Academy in the finals on April 5th. So congratulations. I would like to present our judges with tokens of appreciation for their hard work this afternoon. I'll call first on Mrs. Christian to receive her token. Thank you so much for assisting this afternoon. Oops. Thank you. Mr. Philip Roll, thank you so much for your judging this afternoon. And our chief judge this afternoon, Mr. Edwards, thank you so much. So ladies, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the second debate of the semifinals. This concludes the semifinals, and I will take a look at the scores. There is one prize that I mentioned that is being provided by DBS Radio, and it is the prize for the overall best speaker at the semi-finals. And from what I see here, this prize will go to Miss Diamond Daniel from the Orion Academy. So I will provide your name to DBS Radio, and they will send forth your prize, okay? And to the students from the Northeast Comprehensive School, your prize from Val Ferry will be on its way as well. So I will be in touch. Okay, so thank you so much. And to all our listeners online, thank you so much to the media for being present this afternoon, to our listeners on DBS Radio, on Dominica News Online, on MO News, and on Vibian TV. Thanks for following this debate. Thank you to the audience. You were wonderful. Thank you to the teachers, the coaches, and our Dominica State College Literary and Debating Society members. Thank you to members of the Logistics Committee for this debate who are present, Mrs. Alicia Jajak, Miss Alicia Jajak, and Mrs. Daisy Williams, and everybody who has made this event a success thus far. Thank you so much. And we will be seeing you at the finals, April 5th at Emerald Movies. That's where we'll be. So, see you. Oh, yes, and there is juice at the back and coffee or tea. So please take something before you leave. Thank you so much, and see you April 5th.